every life there comes a moment where silence is louder than sound, where struggle is heavier than success, and where the weight of sacrifice feels almost unbearable. David Gilmour knew that silence. He knew that weight. He carried it not as a burden, but as a challenge, as a fire that burned in the heart of a boy who dreamed of playing notes that could heal the world. His story is not just the story of a guitarist, not just the tale of a band that changed music forever. It is the story of resilience, of walking through storms with nothing but faith in the power of art, of finding light even when the night feels endless. Born into an ordinary family, David Gilmour was not handed stardom. He wasn't born with a silver spoon or a stage already waiting for him. He was a child who looked at the guitar and saw more than strings. He saw a voice, a second soul, a way to speak when words weren't enough, and yet the path wasn't smooth. He played on the streets in small corners, sometimes wondering if the world would ever listen. Struggle wasn't an obstacle for him. It was the soil where his roots grew stronger. Every rejection was a teacher. Every doubt was fuel. And then came the great crossroad of destiny, Pink Floyd, a band already carving its name into the stones of music history, but a band broken by conflict, by the departure of its founding member Syd Barrett, whose genius was swallowed by mental illness. Gilmour was called not as a savior, not as a star, but as a quiet force, a man asked to step into shoes that no one could truly fill. Imagine that weight, joining a band where the shadow of another man loomed so large. But Gilmour didn't try to copy Barrett. He didn't chase ghosts. Instead, he offered himself, his own soul, his own sound, his own quiet strength. And from that choice, Pink Floyd did not collapse. It soared. The sound of his guitar was not about speed, not about showing off. It was about emotion. Every note was deliberate. Every bend in the string carried pain, hope, and love. His solos were not just music, they were prayers. And in those notes lived his philosophy. Life is not about how loud you can be. It's about how deeply you can touch the heart of another human being. That's why millions around the world still feel chills when his guitar cries in comfortably, numb or soars in Shine On You Crazy, Diamond. Because it's not the fingers playing, it's the soul speaking. Greatness, my friends, does not arrive in one thunderclap. It comes in whispers, in quiet persistence, in the decision to pick up the guitar one more time, even when your fingers are bleeding, even when your heart feels heavy. David Gilmour was not a man of shortcuts. He was a man of steady steps. In the long halls of recording studios, in endless nights of rehearsals, in the solitude of practice rooms, he carved his path. Success was not luck, it was labor. And labor is love when you give yourself fully to what you were born to do. But here is the truth few see. Behind every moment of applause, there is a season of doubt. Gilmour had them too. There were nights when the future looked uncertain, when the weight of Syd Barrett's absence threatened to crush the band, when critics wondered if Pink Floyd would even survive. In those moments, he could have given up. He could have let doubt swallow him. But he didn't. He stood tall. He played louder. He believed not only for himself, but for the band, for the music, for the millions who would one day lean on his sound for strength. And that is the mark of true greatness, not the absence of doubt, but the courage to keep moving forward in spite of it. In the world of music, fame often tempts the artist to forget the art. Many fall. Many lose themselves in ego, in excess, in the shallow glitter of stardom. But Gilmour, even when surrounded by the chaos of fame, chose something different. He chose integrity. He chose to remain humble. His philosophy was not look at me, but listen to this. And that is why he stands apart. He reminds us all, it is not the noise of your name that lasts. It is the truth of your work. Think about it. How many guitarists have come and gone? How many bands have risen and fallen? Yet the sound of Gilmour's guitar still feels eternal. Why? Because it wasn't about chasing trends. It wasn't about fitting into a box. It was about heart. And heart never goes out of style. If you want to build something that lasts beyond your lifetime, you must build it from the soul. That is his golden lesson. But life is not a straight road. Even Pink Floyd, a band that seemed untouchable, faced storms. Creative clashes, financial struggles, battles of pride, it all weighed heavy. At times, friendships fractured, words cut deeper than silence, and the dream nearly crumbled. Yet through it all, Gilmour carried himself with grace. He understood something vital. Conflict does not define you. How you rise above it does. And rise he did, turning chaos into creation, turning pain into masterpieces that still echo across generations. Comfortably Numb, one of the greatest songs ever written, was born from such conflict, born in the middle of division. And yet it became unity. It became the anthem of millions. A song where Gilmour's soaring solo reminded us that even in numbness, even in despair, there can be beauty. That is the paradox of life. From our darkest hours often come our brightest lights. Do you hear the message? When you are struggling, when life feels heavy, when you feel trapped in silence, remember this. Your pain can become your art. Your struggle can become your strength. Your story can become someone else's survival. That is what Gilmour teaches. That is what his life whispers to all of us. Don't hide your scars. Play them. Don't bury your pain. Transform it. As the years went on, as the storms of youth settled into the calm seas of age, Gilmour embraced a new truth, that life is not just about achievement. It is about peace. He found refuge in family and simplicity, in the beauty of slowing down while still carrying the fire of creativity. He showed us that true success is balance, that the applause of millions means little if you cannot find joy in the quiet moments of your own home. And so, even as he stood on the grandest stages, he remained grounded. Even as his guitar echoed across stadiums, he never lost touch with the silence of his own heart. There is a lesson here for all of us in 2025, in a world drowning in noise, distraction, and the endless chase for validation. Gilmour reminds us, you do not need to shout to be heard. You do not need to compare yourself to others to matter. What you need is authenticity. The courage to stand in your truth, the bravery to play your own song, even if the world doesn't clap at first. Because one day it will. One day your song will reach the ears that need it most. And perhaps the most inspiring truth of his journey is that it was never just about him. It was about giving. Music was his gift, and he gave it fully, without reservation. And that is why it lives on. That is why it heals. That is why, decades later, when people hear his solos, they close their eyes and feel something eternal, because the gift of giving always outlasts the desire of taking. So ask yourself, what are you giving? What is the sound of your life? Will you let the world hear it, or will you silence it with fear? The story of David Gilmour is not meant to be worshipped. It is meant to be followed. It is not about guitars and stages. It is about courage and soul. He lived as proof that ordinary beginnings can lead to extraordinary destinies. If only you dare to believe, if only you dare to sacrifice, if only you dare to stay true. And when you look at the man today, older, softer in appearance, but still carrying that same fire, you see a truth that we all must hold on to. Passion does not die with age. Dreams do not expire. Time is not an enemy, it is a canvas. And every day you breathe is another chance to paint. That is the final golden word of his journey. It is never too late. Never too late to begin. Never too late to change. Never too late to play your song. So let his story be your mirror. Let his struggles remind you that struggle is not the end. It is the beginning. Let his sacrifices remind you that every great achievement is paid for with something. But that price is always worth it.